Hey, welcome to another episode of Beat My Guest. This is your host, Jay Stern, and I'm here with my buddy, OG Beckham. What's up, Glenn?
What's going on? How you doing?
Doing all right. We're here to recap the events of the weekend and fill everybody in on what's going on with the Mark Hunt situation. So let's kick things off by talking about UFC 216. First, let's give it a grade. I thought that was a pretty awesome event. The fights were really good finishes. I give that definitely an A-.
Yeah, I thought the main event delivered. The finish to the Demetrius Johnson fight was probably one of the best finishes in UFC history. So, yeah, overall, a great card. Give it a solid B+.
We are tough critics because Dana White says that was the best card ever, and Dana White never exaggerates. In the 45,000 years that I've known him, he's never exaggerated.
It's funny because I think he says every UFC card is the best card ever.
I think there was one time he actually did say the card sucked. He said, this card didn't deliver. It was 12 fights, 12 boring decisions, and he was pretty sad about that.
Yeah, that's probably what it takes for him to say something like that.
Yeah, I think Debbie Downer was in the house. So let's talk about the Ferguson Lee fight. We talked about it briefly off air. Lee had trouble making weight. Do you think that was the factor in him running out of gas, or do you think he just didn't have the cardio, or was just getting hit too much and it just took too much out of him?
Yeah, I think it was the weight cut. He was a totally different fighter in the second round than he was in the first round. You could see his hands were getting lower. His movements were a lot slower. He was taking deep, heavy breaths, halfway through the round. Yeah, he just looked like a totally different fighter. So, when you lose 20 pounds.
Looked like the Hector Lombard situation because Kevin Lee was jacked. When he filled out and he gained his weight back, he looked like that guy's got to be, he's making 155. He looks like he's got to be close to 180 come fight time.
Yeah, he looked like a men's physique competitor, not a UFC fighter.
Totally, yeah. So, but I was happy to see Ferguson get the win because Ferguson's run through the division. The guy has taken care of 10 guys, almost all of them in the top 10, whereas Kevin Lee basically got this title fight with one win over a top 10 guy. So I was happy to see Ferguson get it. I felt like he's been working for this for so long, and he finally got what he deserved.
I don't think there's a more exciting 155 pound fighter than Tony Ferguson. So he definitely deserved it.
And the finish, did you think when you see a guy get in a triangle like that, a guy like Kevin Lee who's got a pretty good ground game, did you get a feeling, because I got the feeling that he was giving up when he gets kind of the ankles around the shoulder, but the guy knows the triangle's coming, he knows what to do, he's supposed to posture up there. When you see a guy kind of just fall into it, let the guy lock the leg, do you feel like the guy's giving up?
Yeah. His posture, like you said, his posture was bad. He kind of was. I think he was looking for a way out. That's what I think. Whenever that kind of situation happens, they're usually looking for a way out. He was totally gassed. I can only imagine how he felt in there. So
if I'm in Tony Ferguson's guard and he's smashing me in the face with elbows, I'm gonna be like, dude, can you just triangle me and get it over with?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I don't think he had anything left. So that was the only way out.
It's one thing for Diego Sanchez, whose face is already ruined, but Kevin Lee's a pretty good-looking guy. He's got to be thinking I don't want to come out of this fight looking like Diego Sanchez.
Yeah. It's just it's a way of quitting while saving face.
Yeah, I agree. So the Demetrius Johnson fight. Obviously, a sick finish there. Borg was bringing it. Borg was in bad situations basically in every round, and he never gave up. That guy showed a lot of heart, and I think it's one of those examples where the guy's stock goes up even in the loss. What do you think?
Oh yeah, he was totally outclassed. For a guy who shouldn't have been in the octagon with Demetrius Johnson, he looked like a guy who should have been in there. Does that make sense?
For sure. And like you said, At this point, they basically run out of challengers. We're just recycling guys for, Demetrius Johnson to fight. It's like, when's Cejudo going to get another shot? Like, did you guys not see the first fight? Did you not see how outclassed Cejudo was in that fight? I mean, are we really dying to see Cejudo get a second shot at Johnson? I know I'm not.
I think he jumped out of the hotel and broke his ankle on purpose so he wouldn't have to ever fight Demetrius Johnson again.
That's crazy. I mean, that's up in your neck of the woods. But, I mean, the idea that a place could become overwhelmed with smoke and fire that quickly, the guy's got to jump out of the window. I mean, is that a story that we're buying, or did somebody walk in on Cejudo with somebody's wife and he actually jumped out the window?
I'm going with option B because that sounds a lot better than the first one.
You're thinking Cejudo. I mean, he's an Olympic gold medalist. He jumps out the window. Does that mean that 50 people got left behind? Because I don't know about you, I'm not jumping out the window.
Something doesn't sound right for sure. I really don't know. Did he have any clothes on when he jumped out that window?
That's a crucial piece of evidence. See, we need to get the cameras and find out what was Cejudo wearing when he jumped out the window, and did a guy then stick his head out the window and scream something at him after he jumped?
Yeah, I think that's where the real story is.
I think we got to uncover that. So anyway, moving along, let's talk about something that's been in the news this week is Mark Hunt got pulled from Fight Night Australia. As you know, Mark Hunt hails from, I believe, New Zealand, so that's his neck of the woods. Or maybe he's from Australia. I don't even remember. I know he's from Australia or New Zealand. But long story short, he gave an interview, like a podcast interview, and he said, I've taken a lot of punches, and sometimes I feel like I don't know where I am. I slur my speech sometimes. I can't remember anything that happened anytime before yesterday. So he did this, he gave this kind of interview. And again, you don't know how much is legit, how much he's exaggerating or embellishing, to make the interview sound more interesting. But the UFC executives acted on it, pulled him from the card, and replaced him with Fabricio Verdum. And here's what Mark Hunt posted about it on Instagram. He wrote, "At Dana White, you piece of shit motherfucker, why you fuckers pull me from the fight? You getting another lawsuit, you fuckwit. You can kiss my ass, you bald-headed prick. You put that chicken shit bitch in, get fucked, cocksucker." So all I can say is, Mark, please tell us what you really feel.
I love how Mark Hunt's taking this suspension in stride.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he's already suing the UFC. The way the UFC figures is like, hey, how many things? He's already suing us for like 15 different things. What's one more?
Yeah.
The lawyers are already on the case. They might as well just add another paragraph to the brief.
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean, the guy's, he's slurring his speech. He can't gather his thoughts. There's a pretty good. I mean, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to get punched in the head again. Like, it seems like he's begging for it, or does he just want to? Is he sue happy? I don't know.
I think me and you have talked about this. Did we not feel like Junior Dos Santos is a little punch drunk the last couple interviews he's given?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, George St. Pierre was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he said that sometimes he goes out for like a drive or something like that, and he can't remember like what happened to the last 10 minutes, and he thinks that aliens abducted him or something. Do you remember this?
Well, I mean, I don't know if GSP is blaming it on fighting or not, because from his fights, I don't recall him getting hit in like the last couple fights.
I don't. Yeah.
When you lay and pray with your head against the guy's cheek, it's hard to take too many hard punches.
Yeah. Well, but it's like these fighters all show these, not all, but a lot of fighters show these symptoms or,
let's talk about the aforementioned Diego Sanchez. Has anybody taken as much punishment as Diego Sanchez?
And they keep letting him fight 3 or 4 times a year.
He's headlining a fight that's coming up. He's got a fight coming up, and he's the main attraction. I think it's Diego Sanchez, Matt Brown, kind of give the fan their money's worth. Loser goes into a coma.
Loser goes into a coffin.
Loser goes to the nursing home.
Yeah. God, it's like, so obviously they don't care about fighters' health. So the whole Mark Hunt thing, it's like Dana White was just waiting for a chance to fucking get rid of this guy.
Oh, and then using his own words against him. Like Mark Hunt's thinking, we talked about this. One of the reasons why, this is episode number 383 for us, and one of the reasons we don't have fighters on is because, for the most part, they're boring. For the most part, they don't say anything interesting. So, you have Mark Hunt on the show, and, you give him some caffeine. You have a couple espressos before he comes on. He's all amped up. He tells some good stories, and you got the UFC, who probably has never listened to a podcast ever, considering that there's so many boring interviews out there. But that one catches somebody's ear, and they're like, "Hey, Dana, got an excuse to pull Mark off the fight in front of his hometown crowd. Should we do it?" Fuck him.
He couldn't wait. That's what he was waiting for. He's waiting for the moment that Mark Hunt screwed up so he could fire him.
Yeah. So I think we're in agreement there. Mark Hunt getting punished once again, and if you missed his love there, Dana White, you piece of shit motherfucker! Why you fuckers pull me from the fight? You getting another lawsuit? You fuckwit! You can kiss my ass, you bald-headed prick! You put that chicken shit bitch in. Get fucked, cocksucker! If there's a quote that I'm gonna read about in the New York Times, that's probably it. That's probably gonna be like tweet of the week.
Well, does anyone have any more of a reason to hate the UFC? They put him in a fight against Brock Lesnar, who they knew was juiced to the gills on short notice, and they put him in there, basically with a steroid, infested monster, without no regard for Mark Hunt's health.
Well, that's what the lawsuit's about. So this lawsuit is based on Brock Lesnar putting his life at risk. So, look, in all fairness, if the UFC does put Mark Hunt in there, and if he does take a beating, or even if he doesn't take a beating, if down the road he develops CTE, that's just one more lawsuit the UFC is getting. And then it's like, hey, you knew or had reason to know that Mark Hunt was already suffering from CTE because he admitted it on the air, and then you allowed him to fight. So, in the UFC's defense, they're kind of screwed either way.
Yeah, they're not getting away from this. But I'm surprised, why haven't more fighters stepped up like Mark Hunt?
Well, I think they just, it's like you're following that story out of the Hemisphere, who's been making couch and pulling handling for 25 years to get parts in movies. Finally, it's revealed by some reporter for the New York Times that he's paid out 8 settlements, and now basically everyone, a who's who in Hollywood, he tried to do. And you wonder, after 25 years, why no one has ever said anything about it. And so it's almost the same thing, hey, you're so afraid you're going to be blacked from the industry, which is large, and why people don't jump on the fight or don't sue him. One of the first fights I covered was UFC 77 in Cincinnati, and Rich Franklin fighting on the card. I wrote a piece for Sherdog, and I already had my press credentials, was covering the fight, and I told Sherdog, I was like, hey, I'm here. They bought an article that I wrote about Rich Franklin, and then I said, do you guys want me to do any interviews? And they're like, oh, don't mention our name. If Dana, somebody from Sherdog is there, you'll have your press pass pulled faster than you get out tonight. So. So that's the situation. Same thing, basically, the fearmongering that goes on in Hollywood for calling out the boss is the same as MMA. So, fast file.
Yeah, so it's only $6,000 a show and $6,000 to win a fight on the UFC prelims. So not a fair fighter. So the UFC.
Hey, if trophy's not bodybuilding, then $6,000 is enough in MMA.
$6,000 is $6,000.